these are class 3. So in medical devices, there's class 1, which is something as simple as like a thermometer,
Oh,
class 2, and then class 3. And so class 3 is your medical devices that if things go wrong, they can go pretty wrong. And so there's a lot more scrutiny on the development process, the amount of evidence that you have to generate to get something onto the market. So I was dealing in, hey, when you report stuff and they come in, we need to investigate, is there a problem with our manufacturing process? Is there a problem with our design? And how do we fix those things?
hmm.
And then after a couple of years in there, right, and I have a lot of fun stories from that time, I moved into the development quality space. So instead of working with product that's already on the market, we are working on the next generation of product to get to market. And so I've been on this team for 2.5 years now. I started off as a lead quality engineer, and now I'm actually the manager of the development quality group. And the product that I showed you is our newest generation device that we actually just launched earlier this year.
Huh.
And so we call it G5. It's our fifth generation.
Got it.
The first iteration of this device got on the market, I want to say 2010, 2012.
Wow.
And before the fourth generation was launched in 2019. So for
Oh,
a
this
lot
is
of
a big
folks
upgrade.
who are, yeah, and a lot of folks who are like in engineering space, especially being in the Bay Area and in tech, right? That seems like an eternity, right?
Right.
It's been 6 years to get from the fourth to the fifth generation.
Yeah.
But again, going back to just the scrutiny of all the testing,
Human beings, that
evaluation.
type of thing. Like if a phone breaks, you don't die.
Exactly. And what is crazy is even with this most recent generation, we didn't even have to do a clinical trial.
Oh,
And that's getting into a whole bunch of weeds of how it works within the industry and the regulatory bodies. And when you are all the way on your fourth generation, you have a lot of real world evidence with your products. And so a lot of the times you're looking back on, hey, how is this performing in the field? And then what are the changes you're making?
right.
And how significant are those changes? So you're working in much more of an iterative development space rather than, brand new blue sky type, technologies. So there's still a lot that
Yeah.
goes on, and it's a very like this device. The system itself has over probably 200 total components that all get put together. They
Wow.
come from all over the world and all these things. So there's a lot of complexity there. But yeah, it took 6 years. There was a rescope involved because of technical challenges but yeah, we're in right now. So as part of that process, as a quality engineer, right, our job is basically to ensure that we're meeting our product specifications, our product requirements internally, how we've defined those, make sure that we set them correctly.
Yeah.
We're one of the probably most cross-functional groups, especially within the development space, because we're working with research and development. That can be from a design standpoint, it can be from a process standpoint, how we manufacture it. So there's an R&D process team. There's a new product introduction team, which is like our manufacturing engineers who take this new design from R&D and figure out how to do it at scale. We've also got our clinical engineers, an extension of R&D, where they are focused on the clinical applications and how do you do usability testing.
Hmm.
You validate that how we define or how we design this device is actually meeting the user needs, right? Like we can say, hey, it needs to do X, Y, and Z. It needs to be this strong at this junction. It needs to withstand this much pressure. But does it actually do what the doctors want it to do?
Yeah.
Because the way that it's often described, which I like it, is did you design the device right? And that's your engineering side. And did you design the right device? And
Hmm.
that's the user side.
Huh.
So we work with those teams, pretty hand in hand every step of the way. When there are issues, we're very involved in investigations. I won't show you my whiteboard wall that is very much looks like the Charlie Day GIF from Always Sunny. In the middle of an investigation, you're trying to connect all the dots. But that's kind of where we go. So it's from design conceptualization all the way to post-commercial,
Yeah.
post-commercialization. So we have in medical device, you call it design controls. You have your design input, how you're going to make the device and determine how you need to do it. You have your design freeze or design select, where you finally hone
Yeah.
in on something, and then you move to verification and validation. So, how can you confirm that you made it right and that you can make it at scale? And then you go into design transfer. So, how can you confirm that everything is set up for the long-term commercial manufacturing? And then once you get approval and you actually have it out in the world, as we do now, we are very on top of monitoring everything that's coming in. So,
Hmm.
all these meetings about, hey, user X, Y, and Z reported this. What's going on? What do we need to look into? So
Do you have
it's
to like
really
try to
from
replicate something? Like, do you have to like figure out like where
that's
it went wrong?
absolutely, that's a huge part. And so
Yeah.
root cause investigation is something that has been a huge part of my career. I think it's not just quality, but and in general, right, in engineering. But that is definitely
Literally
a
the
really
third time
important
it's come up
buzzword.
on the podcast in the last 6 months. So yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
yep. How can you replicate a failure mode? Can you continue to do it? Turn a signal on and off? Because there's a lot of great theories that people come up with, but then there's also, in theory, a lot of the stuff that goes wrong in the field shouldn't go wrong in the field.
Right.
So like some of the fun stuff
You've
that
thought through the
we,
theories, you just haven't thought through the actual use of it. So now we have to figure out whether
yeah,
it's going to go on.